Hello everyone,
This
before we
event
begin
is for
today's video, I
registered
need your
founders
help.
only.
We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us.
This is the future we
It's
have
quick,
built
free,
together.
and allows us to continue bringing you
Welcome
great
to
content.
the age
Your support
of
means everything.
Nexartecture.
Let's keep this channel
You
growing
should not be here.
collectively.
Get out.
Where are you
Silence!
watching from?
This is
Drop your
important.
city or
People need to
country
know.
in the comments below.
Security, please.
Thank you very
Escort
much.
him out.
Now let's get back to the
What is
story.
going on?
The morning sun hit the glass facade of the Arcadium Venture Summit like a mirror made to blind outsiders. Inside, polished shoes echoed against marble, conversations shimmered with the sound of money, and every handshake felt rehearsed. At precisely 9 a.m., Elijah Cole stepped through the revolving doors, hoodie, sneakers, no entourage. His badge hung around his neck, black letters on white. Elijah Cole, Nexara Technologies. No titles, no hype, just a name. Behind the registration desk, a young woman in a fitted blazer looked up, scanning him from hoodie to shoes. Her smile flickered like a dying light bulb. Deliveries go through the side door, she said. Elijah's tone was even. I'm here to check in. She frowned, uncertain. This summit's for founders. I know. He slid the badge across the counter. I'm one of them. Her hand hovered over the keyboard, but something in her eyes said she'd already decided otherwise. Can I get security to confirm? She whispered into her earpiece. Elijah waited silent. He'd seen this before. Different cities, same temperature in the air. The kind that freezes dignity before it even enters the room. 2 guards approached. One was polite enough to pretend. Sir, this area's for participants only. Elijah raised an eyebrow. You're looking at one. The guard's reply was quick, mechanical. We'll have to double-check that. And just like that, whispers spread across the lobby. Eyes turned. A black man in a hoodie being checked. The same old story, dressed in a new suit. A man in a gray vest across the room chuckled. They really let anybody walk in now, huh? Elijah didn't react. He simply exhaled through his nose, slow, controlled. He'd promised himself not today, no anger, only precision. As the guards made their call, a reflection caught his eye. The summit banner behind the counter, redefining the future of innovation. He almost smiled. If only they knew. The woman from registration gestured awkwardly. Sir, please wait by the wall until we verify your access. He stepped aside, hands in pockets, calm, calculated, watching. The elevator doors opened behind him. Out stepped Graham Porter, silver hair, gray suit, the kind of man who thought every room was his. When he spotted Elijah, his brows knit in irritation. Security, is there an issue here? The guard nodded. Unverified guest, sir? Graham's voice carried like authority disguised as politeness. Then remove him. We can't have disruptions on day 1. The words fell heavy, sharp enough to cut, casual enough to sound normal. Elijah turned, meeting Graham's gaze without blinking. I'm not here to cause a disruption, he said evenly. I'm here to speak. Graham laughed softly like a teacher amused by a child's claim. Speak about what, deliveries? That laughter rippled through the lobby, a quiet storm of arrogance. Elijah didn't move, didn't defend himself. Just a steady look, enough to make the guard hesitate. Then the voiceover slides in, measured, cinematic, intimate. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change. And we're glad you're here. Now back to Elijah. The camera of the story tightens. Elijah standing alone, framed by glass and power he quietly owns. The guard gestures again. Sir, you'll need to step outside. Elijah nods once, slow. Of course, he says. But remember this moment. As he walks away, the elevator lights reflect across his hoodie like a silent crown. The voiceover lingers. They said he didn't belong in the room. What they didn't know. He owned the floor beneath their feet. The elevator doors closed behind Elijah with a soft hiss, sealing him outside the only room that mattered. Through the glass, he could see what he wasn't supposed to see. Laughter, champagne flutes, a stage washed in white light. A sign above the entrance read, Founders Hall, entry by registration only. He scanned the hall through the reflection. Every table shimmered with brand logos, badges, and egos. The kind of crowd that looked expensive even when silent. Elijah adjusted his hoodie and walked back inside once the guards drifted off. No one stopped him this time because no one really looked. In rooms like this, invisibility was a uniform. The camera moves with him through the crowd. Conversations slice through the air. He's with logistics. Probably someone's assistant. These tech kids think hoodies make them geniuses. He said nothing. Instead, he slipped into the back row of the main stage hall, a sea of black suits and ambition. On the massive LED screen ahead, a name flashed in bold silver letters. Nexora Technologies. Underneath it, another name appeared. Daniel Rhodes, partnered with Helios Group. For a moment, the room blurred. Elijah's company. Someone else's name. He tilted his head slightly as if to confirm the nightmare was real. At the front, Daniel stood rehearsing with a mic, laughing with Graham Porter. "Daniel, remember," Graham said, voice low but crisp. "Highlight your leadership angle. You represent our new wave of innovation." Daniel grinned. "Got it. Optics matter, right?" "Always." Elijah's eyes narrowed, not in anger but calculation. He opened his tablet and scrolled through the summit schedule. His slot at 10 a.m.? Gone. Replaced by Daniel's, a digital erasure. Quiet complete. The voiceover hums under the surface. He'd seen this play before, the polished version of theft. The kind that came with applause. A woman brushed past him, nearly spilling coffee on his sleeve. "Oh, sorry, didn't see you there," she said, already looking away. He smiled faintly. "That makes two of us." Graham's voice echoed through the microphone test. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're proud to showcase the next revolution in predictive AI, a system designed by one of our own." The audience clapped. Cameras flashed. Daniel raised his hand modestly, basking in someone else's light. Elijah sat perfectly still, hands folded, expression unreadable. He remembered another room years ago, smaller, cheaper, where a recruiter told him, "You're brilliant, but we need someone who looks more fundable." He'd smiled then too. The same calm, the same promise forming behind silence. Back in the present, a young intern, Sophia Nguyen, noticed the mismatch. Her eyes darted from the screen to the quiet man in the hoodie, then back again. Something didn't line up. She whispered to the cameraman beside her, "Isn't that the real Nexora guy?" The cameraman shrugged. "Doesn't matter. The investors already picked their story." The line hung there, bitter and true. Elijah closed his tablet and stood, straightening the badge still clipped to his hoodie. They can have the spotlight, he thought. I'll keep the system. He turned, heading toward the corridor that led backstage, and, unnoticed, unbothered, uninvited, the voiceover sinks lower, almost intimate. They didn't see him as a founder. That's the thing about power in disguise. It waits, it listens, and when the time comes, it doesn't knock. It enters. The camera lingers on the screen, flashing Nexora behind Daniel's grin, a stolen crown lit by ignorance, then cuts sharply to Elijah's silhouette disappearing down the corridor, silent as intention. Backstage was colder, not because of the air conditioning, but because of the eyes. The hallway smelled of coffee, cables, and quiet judgment. Laughter echoed from the green room ahead, where founders swapped business cards like poker chips. A laminated sign on the door read, "Speakers only." Elijah approached, scanning the list taped beside it. His name, missing. Daniel's, top of the list. Graham Porter's signature gleamed beneath as event partner. He placed his palm against the door handle. Before it could turn, a voice stopped him. "Excuse me, sir?" A woman in a headset and summit badge stepped forward, tablet in hand. Her tone was polite, trained, but her smile had edges. "This area's for founders and speakers only." Elijah nodded once. "That's why I'm here." Her stylus hovered. "Company name?" "Nexora Technologies." A beat of silence. She looked at her screen, frowned, looked again. "I'm not finding you in the system." "Try again," Elijah said quietly. She did, slower this time, as if repetition could change truth. "No, sorry. We only have Daniel Rhodes listed under Nexora." He held her gaze, calm, measured. "I founded Nexora." She laughed lightly, a reflex. "Oh, right, of course." Then recovering, "Let me check with my supervisor." Her headset crackled. "Blake, can you confirm Mr. Cole here? Says he's a founder." Static, then a male voice with a tone dipped in honey and poison. "Cole? No one by that name is authorized backstage. He's not on the list." The coordinator nodded, relieved. Sorry, sir. If you're media or logistics, the side corridor is that way. Elijah exhaled slowly through his nose. Understood. He didn't move. Moments later, Blake Morgan himself appeared, slim, sharp suit, tablet tucked under one arm. He smiled with that corporate precision reserved for people you want gone. Everything okay here? Yes, the coordinator replied. He was just leaving. Blake turned to Elijah, extending a hand he didn't intend to mean. Appreciate your enthusiasm, but the founders are preparing to go live. We can't have extra personnel back here. Elijah didn't take the handshake. I'm not extra personnel. Blake's smile thinned. Then what exactly are you? Elijah paused just long enough to make silence feel like dominance. Someone you'll remember, Blake chuckled softly. That sounds like a threat. It's a forecast, Elijah said. Behind them, Daniel's voice echoed from inside the green room, laughing with Graham. You wouldn't believe how many people try to claim Nexora online. It's flattering, really. The group laughed. Elijah's face didn't move, but something behind his eyes shifted, a stillness sharpening into focus. Voiceover slides in, cool and precise. They build walls out of tone, not bricks. They lock doors with policy, not keys. And every time they call it professionalism. Blake folded his arms. Sir, I'll have to ask you to clear the area before the cameras roll. Elijah nodded. Then I'll save my words for the right audience. He turned away. The camera tracks him walking down the corridor, each step deliberate like punctuation. The chatter fades behind him, replaced by the hum of stage lights and the faint echo of injustice rehearsed to perfection. He stopped at a glass wall overlooking the main stage. Through it, he could see Daniel adjusting his mic, Graham whispering last-minute notes. Elijah whispered almost to himself, You can't erase the code. It runs beneath your permission. He looked down at his smartwatch, a quiet pulse blinking. Protocol ready. The voiceover returns low and steady. They thought the barrier was keeping him out. They didn't see him, it was keeping them in. The stage lights dimmed, swallowing the chatter into one clean silence. Rows of investors straightened in their chairs, gold watches flashing under the spotlights, the sound of power clearing its throat. Elijah Cole slipped quietly into a seat near the back. Hoodie. Neutral expression, no badge visible now. He looked like someone's assistant who'd wandered into the wrong hall, yet sat with the composure of a man reviewing his own property. On stage, Daniel Rhodes adjusted his mic, his voice dripping with practiced charm. Good morning, everyone. Today we present the next frontier of predictive AI, Nexora Technologies. Applause. A few nods. Graham Porter, sitting front row, leaned back like a proud mentor. Elijah's company name glowed 30 feet high behind the imposter. And still, Elijah didn't move. He watched Daniel click through slides he'd written himself. The code, the UI mockups, even the tagline, Precision is the new revolution. Every word stolen, repackaged in a lighter shade. From the front, Graham whispered to an associate, You see the optics? Young, articulate, clean-cut, the kind of founder we can sell. Elijah heard it. He didn't flinch. He'd learned long ago that silence can be a weapon sharper than any reply. A woman sitting 2 seats away whispered to her partner, Who's the guy in the hoodie? Her partner shrugged. Probably press. He smiled faintly. Press? Yes, he thought, press play. Daniel kept talking. This algorithm doesn't just learn from data. It learns intent. It predicts market shifts before they happen. It's innovation for everyone. Elijah's fingers tapped lightly on his thigh. 3 taps, then stillness. A pattern only Amira Torres would recognize. Somewhere across the city in a glass-walled office, her monitor blinked. Phase 1, standing by. But here, in the hall, Elijah's calm looked like submission. The guards near the exit eyed him suspiciously, whispering into radios. He ignored them. His gaze stayed on Daniel, dissecting every gesture, every lie presented as genius. Voiceover seeps in, steady as gravity. He'd seen this before. Not plagiarism, translation. They didn't steal his work. They translated it into their language, their faces, their comfort zone. Graham took the stage midway through the presentation, microphone in hand. At Helios, we pride ourselves on spotting raw potential, he said. smiling like a man who'd already written history. Daniel embodies the innovation spirit we champion. The crowd applauded again. Flashbulbs popped. The air thickened with validation. Elijah watched, motionless, as if measuring the weight of every clap. Then his smartwatch pulsed once in a subtle vibration. He glanced down. A single word appeared. Ready. Sitting there among the people who'd just erased him, he looked utterly at peace. The kind of calm that precedes weather change. He whispered under his breath, almost inaudible. Let them finish their version. Then I'll show them the source. From the aisle, Sophia Nguyen, the intern, raised her phone. She zoomed in on the stage, then slowly panned to the man in the hoodie. Her whisper caught on the mic. That's him. That's the real founder. The voiceover returns, quiet but charged. Every empire writes its story in confidence until the author shows up. Daniel smiled, bowing slightly as applause swelled again. Elijah's eyes followed the logo fading across the LED screen. Nexora, letters he built from nothing, now floating above thieves. He leaned back, exhaled once, slow, and in that breath the temperature of the story began to shift. The stage lights dimmed, swallowing the chatter into one clean silence. Rows of investors straightened in their chairs, gold watches flashing under the spotlights, the sound of power clearing its throat. Elijah Cole slipped quietly into a seat near the back. Hoodie. Neutral expression, no badge visible now. He looked like someone's assistant who'd wandered into the wrong hall, yet sat with the composure of a man reviewing his own property. On stage, Daniel Rhodes adjusted his mic, his voice dripping with practiced charm. Good morning, everyone. Today we present the next frontier of predictive AI, Nexora Technologies. Applause. A few nods. Graham Porter, sitting front row, leaned back like a proud mentor. Elijah's company name glowed 30 feet high behind the imposter. And still, Elijah didn't move. He watched Daniel click through slides he'd written himself. The code, the UI mockups, even the tagline, "Precision is the new revolution." Every word stolen, repackaged in a lighter shade. From the front, Graham whispered to an associate, "You see the optics? Young, articulate, clean-cut, the kind of founder we can sell." Elijah heard it. He didn't flinch. He'd learned long ago that silence can be a weapon sharper than any reply. A woman sitting 2 seats away whispered to her partner, "Who's the guy in the hoodie?" Her partner shrugged. "Probably press." He smiled faintly. "Press?" Yes, he thought, press play. Daniel kept talking. This algorithm doesn't just learn from data. It learns intent. It predicts market shifts before they happen. It's innovation for everyone. Elijah's fingers tapped lightly on his thigh. 3 taps, then stillness. A pattern only Amira Torres would recognize. Somewhere across the city in a glass-walled office, her monitor blinked. Phase 1, standing by. But here, in the hall, Elijah's calm looked like submission. The guards near the exit eyed him suspiciously, whispering into radios. He ignored them. His gaze stayed on Daniel, dissecting every gesture, every lie presented as genius. Voiceover seeps in, steady as gravity. He'd seen this before. Not plagiarism, translation. They didn't steal his work. They translated it into their language, their faces, their comfort zone. Graham took the stage midway through the presentation, microphone in hand. "At Helios, we pride ourselves on spotting raw potential," he said, smiling like a man who'd already written history. Daniel embodies the innovation spirit we champion. The crowd applauded again. Flashbulbs popped. The air thickened with validation. Elijah watched, motionless, as if measuring the weight of every clap. Then his smartwatch pulsed once in a subtle vibration. He glanced down. A single word appeared. Ready. Sitting there among the people who'd just erased him, he looked utterly at peace. The kind of calm that precedes weather change. He whispered under his breath, almost inaudible. Let them finish their version. Then I'll show them the source. From the aisle, Sophia Nguyen, the intern, raised her phone. She zoomed in on the stage, then slowly panned to the man in the hoodie. Her whisper caught on the mic. That's him. That's the real founder. The voiceover returns, quiet but charged. Every empire writes its story in confidence until the author shows up. Daniel smiled, bowing slightly as applause swelled again. Elijah's eyes followed the logo fading across the LED screen. Nexora. Letters he built from nothing, now floating above thieves. He leaned back, exhaled once, slow. And in that breath, the temperature of the story began to shift. The hallway outside the main hall was cold and echoing, the kind of silence that follows injustice. Elijah stood near a marble column, hands in his pockets, eyes steady. Through the glass doors he could still hear muffled voices, panic wrapped in professionalism. Inside, the summit was unraveling. Sophia Nguyen had her phone raised now, the red REC light glowing. She whispered to her camera, "This is the Arcadium Venture Summit in San Francisco. They just removed the man who built Nexora from his own presentation." Her voice trembled, not with fear but with conviction. The cameraman beside her whispered, "You sure you want to post that? That's Helios you're messing with." She didn't blink, then let them answer for it. She hit go live. Instantly, comments began to roll across the screen. "Wait, that's Elijah Cole. Isn't he the real CEO? They kicked him out?" The chat exploded, hashtags forming like wildfire. From the stage, Daniel's smile had evaporated. "Let's continue, shall we?" he said, voice cracking. But the audience wasn't listening anymore. Heads bent over phones, whispers turning into disbelief. Graham leaned toward him, jaw tight. "Keep going," Daniel swallowed. "As I was saying, yeah." But then someone near the back shouted, "He's trending right now. The founder you just kicked out." Sophia's livestream count ticked upward, 5,000 viewers, 12,000, 30,000. She kept narrating softly, her lens capturing the chaos like a moral documentary unfolding in real time. "You can see the confusion on their faces," she said, "because they know. The internet knows." Outside, Elijah's phone buzzed once and a secure notification from Amira Torres. "Phase 2 ready. Broadcast aligned." He typed one sentence back. "Wait for signal." Voiceover hums low and steady. He didn't need to fight for visibility. The world was already turning its lens toward him. Back inside, Graham snatched the mic from Daniel. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a minor disruption. Please disregard any online rumors. The individual removed earlier is unaffiliated." He froze mid-sentence as every screen in the hall, the giant LED, the tablets, even the investor dashboards, blinked. Then, without warning, they all displayed the same notification. Nexora Technologies official statement. Unauthorized use of proprietary data detected. Internal review initiated. Gasps. A woman in the second row muttered, "Oh my God." Daniel's knees seemed to weaken. Graham's composure cracked into a thin sheen of sweat. Sophia caught it all. Her voiceover whispered, "You're watching history rewrite itself. Live." In the hallway, Elijah checked the time. 10:38 a.m. He adjusted his sleeves, exhaled once, and looked at the guard standing nearby, now uneasy. One of them finally asked, "Sir, was that you?" Elijah half smiled. "That depends who you think I am." Voiceover deepens, measured and calm. When people film injustice, they think they're capturing a moment. What they don't realize is, sometimes they're recording an ending. Back in the hall, Daniel's voice cracked through the mic, desperate now. "This is all a misunderstanding." The crowd booed. One investor shouted, "Then where's the real founder?" Sophia zoomed in on Daniel's face, trembling beneath the lights. Then she whispered to her audience, "He's right outside." The camera panned toward the glass doors where Elijah still stood, still silent, framed by sunlight like a man waiting for his cue. The heavy doors swung open with a hydraulic hiss. Elijah stepped back into the hall, the same one that had thrown him out 10 minutes earlier. Only now every head was turned toward him. He didn't rush. He didn't need to. The silence carried him. Behind the podium, Graham Porter froze mid-sentence, his mic crackling. "Who authorized him back in here?" No one answered. Security had already stepped aside. The livestream counter in the corner of the screen hit 75,000 viewers. Sophia's camera followed every breath, every step. Daniel stuttered into the mic, "Sir, please, this is a private event." Elijah's voice carried evenly, cutting through the reverb of fear. "No, Daniel. It's a public theft." Gasps rippled through the audience. A few investors raised their phones again, recording, "Verifying. Graham tried to recover his tone, polished, patronizing. Mr. Cole, we appreciate your enthusiasm, but this is not the time or place. Elijah interrupted without raising his voice. You used my data, my code, and my company's name. I think this is exactly the time and place. For the first time that morning, Graham's expression cracked. You can't prove, Elijah pointed to the LED wall. Slide 6, line 47. The screen behind Daniel still glowed. The audience leaned forward as if the pixels themselves might confess. Within seconds, someone from the tech press in the front row shouted, He's right! That's Nexora's encryption signature. The noise hit like a wave. Disbelief, murmurs, scattered applause. Daniel's face drained. That must be a coincidence. Elijah took another step forward. Innovation doesn't happen by coincidence. It happens by work. And I did the work. Sophia's camera caught Graham's whisper. Cut the feed. Shut it down. The AV technician shook his head. Sir, it's streaming to multiple accounts. It's out already. The humiliation was no longer private. It was viral. Voiceover slides in low, deliberate. Every empire fears exposure. But exposure isn't the end. It's the invoice coming due. Graham turned red, gripping the mic tighter. Security. The guards didn't move. They'd seen the comments flashing across the screen. Nexora founder. Justice for Elijah. Daniel looked at the floor, mumbling something about misunderstanding, about creative partnership. Elijah's gaze stayed fixed. You called me unfit to stand on this stage, so I built a higher one. For a heartbeat, no one breathed. Then came the door slam. A sharp metallic clang as one of the double doors behind him shut under its own weight, a sound that punctuated the end of denial. The room flinched. Graham's eyes darted toward the exit, but there was nowhere left to run. A female investor stood up. Mr. Cole, are you confirming that Nexora owns Helios's AI portfolio? Elijah turned to her, calm. Not yet, he said, but check your inbox in about 20 minutes. That line detonated softly, a promise disguised as patience. The room erupted, voices colliding, reporters running for the back, phones shaking as they streamed live. Daniel tried to speak, but his mic only fed back a high-pitched squeal, like the sound of a reputation tearing. Sophia whispered into her phone, voice trembling with awe. He's not shouting. He's not angry, he's dismantling them. The voiceover closes the scene like a slow heartbeat. They slammed the door to keep him out. They didn't realize him, it was already his building. Elijah looked up once at the glowing logo, Nexora, and smiled. The stage lights flickered as if bowing. Across the city, inside a glass tower lined with black steel and soft light, Amira Torres sat before a bank of glowing monitors. Her reflection merged with the screens. Calm eyes, poised hands, the precision of a soldier who didn't need a battlefield to win. Her smartwatch vibrated once. The message was short. From EC, subject, Protocol 9, go, no hesitation. She entered her password, pressed her thumb to the biometric pad and said quietly, activate. The monitors came alive on cascading code. Company seals, legal statements, and encrypted press releases lined up like dominoes. Within seconds, Nexora's global server pushed a single headline to every major tech outlet. Breaking. Nexora Technologies finalizes acquisition of Helios Venture Group. Every system connected to Helios blinked, from stock dashboards to investor accounts, displaying one new line of data. Ownership updated Nexora Technologies, Amira whispered to herself. Game over. Voiceover fades in over the hum of machines. Power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it moves through fiber optics. Invisible, unstoppable, absolute. Back at the summit, the room buzzed with the sound of 100 notifications pinging at once. Investors checked their phones. Confusion spread like heat. One man gasped. Helios just got bought out. Another frowned. That can't be right. Daniel looked at Graham, panic dawning behind his eyes. Is this a joke? Graham yanked out his phone. The screen didn't lie. The Nexora logo spun across the Helios homepage, elegant and merciless. Under it, a Nexora subsidiary. The crowd began to stir, voices layering on top of one another. Wait, he owns them? How long's this been planned? Did we just watch a takeover in real time? Sophia kept filming, her camera trembling with adrenaline. Ladies and gentlemen, she whispered to her stream, You're witnessing corporate history. The man they threw out just bought the empire that mocked him. On stage, Graham's voice cracked. This isn't possible. Who authorized this? A voice from the crowd answered. Apparently the man you called unauthorized. The irony landed like thunder. Daniel backed away from the podium, mic still live, breathing uneven. Elijah, what did you do? Elijah finally spoke, tone steady, almost kind. I didn't do anything to you. I did something for me. He stepped forward, the LED wall behind him now automatically syncing to Nexora's main site. The glowing banner shifted colors, Helios's orange fading into Nexora's midnight black. Every screen in the building followed suit. Every presentation, every schedule, every feed now read, Welcome to the Nexora Venture Summit. Applause started, hesitant, then swelling. Some out of awe, others out of pure survival instinct. Reporters scrambled toward Elijah, microphones raised, questions crashing over each other. He didn't answer any. He looked at Graham instead, eyes calm but heavy with truth. You said I didn't belong here, he said softly. Now I'm the only one who does. The voiceover slides in again, measured like a slow drum. When they closed the door, he built the network. When they erased his name, he bought the signature. Justice doesn't ask for permission, it just logs in. Daniel dropped his mic. Graham sat down slowly, the weight of powerlessness pressing through his tailored suit. Sophia turned her camera back toward Elijah. Her whisper carried across the live stream. That's what calm revenge looks like. Elijah took a breath, scanning the hall that had once excluded him. Every eye, every lens, every heartbeat, now waiting for his next move. He smiled faintly. Phase 2 complete. The room had gone weightless, and like everyone forgot how to breathe. Screens still pulsed with Nexora's new logo, black swallowing Helios orange. Elegance replacing arrogance. Graham Porter sat frozen, phone in hand, refreshing the page over and over, as if denial could rewrite code. It couldn't. At the center of the stage, Daniel Rhodes still held his microphone, his fingers trembling around it. His lips parted, searching for words that wouldn't come, and then, footsteps. Elijah Cole walked down the aisle, slow, unhurried, each step syncing with the camera shutters that flickered like lightning. He reached the front row and stopped beside Graham, who finally found his voice. What did you do? Elijah's eyes stayed calm. I followed procedure. He motioned toward the LED screen. Run my name. Silence. No one moved. Then, as if drawn by gravity, one of the event technicians typed Elijah Cole into the Helios shareholder database projected behind them. The result appeared instantly. Primary owner, Elijah Cole, Nexora Technologies. A gasp tore through the room. Then another. The noise swelled, disbelief turning into awe. Voiceover slides in, steady, almost reverent. They said he didn't belong in the room. They never thought to ask who built the roof. Reporters surged forward. Phones lifted like a forest of proof. Sophia's live stream counter hit 6 digits. Graham stood abruptly, face pale. This is some kind of stunt. You think money makes you legitimate? Elijah turned to him, expression flat. No, Mr. Porter, integrity does. Money just makes it public. The crowd murmured approval, a low tide of vindication rising beneath the chandeliers. Daniel tried to speak again, stammering through panic. You can't just buy a firm like that overnight? Elijah cut him off. Overnight? No, it took years. I built my own infrastructure while you built excuses. He took a step closer, voice never raising, but commanding every inch of the stage. I came here today to see if the system that shut me out had changed. He looked around the hall. The investors, the founders, the guards. It hasn't, but I have. Applause started, scattered, uncertain, but grew with every beat. It wasn't polite. It was cleansing. Sophia zoomed in, whispering into her mic, her voice shaking. He just flipped the entire summit. The man they humiliated now owns it. On screen, the ticker updated again. Helios Venture Group. Status, subsidiary, Nexora Technologies. Graham turned toward the exit, but the cameras were everywhere. There was nowhere to hide. Elijah looked at him one last time. Next time you tell someone they don't belong, make sure you're not standing on their floor. He walked past Daniel, whose mic slipped from his hand and clattered across the stage, the sound of ego falling. Voiceover lowers to a hum. Power doesn't need permission. It only needs timing. At the back of the hall, Sophia's camera caught one final shot. Elijah standing under the glowing Nexora logo, the entire crowd reflected in the polished floor at his feet. He didn't bow. He didn't smile. He just nodded once, like a man acknowledging gravity, steady, inevitable, absolute. The livestream comment section exploded. This is real power. Black excellence in silence. He owned the room, literally. Fade out on Elijah's face. Quiet. Composed, the storm now beneath him. Voiceover closes. They asked for credentials. He gave them ownership. The hall trembled under its own silence. Not the kind that came from peace. The kind that came after something irreversible. Every monitor glowed with the Nexora logo now, cool and absolute. Helios was gone. Erased not by rage, but by paperwork, by intellect. Graham Porter stood motionless in the front row, face drained of the color that once carried arrogance. The man who thought he could measure potential by appearance now looked small under the light he used to control. Daniel Rhodes was worse. He'd sunk to the edge of the stage, tie crooked, hands shaking as if the truth itself had weight. His microphone lay on the floor, rolling lazily back and forth, like a pendulum counting down the death of pretense. And in that heavy quiet, Elijah Cole climbed the steps to the stage. No fanfare. No security escort. Just composure. Every step was the opposite of the humiliation he endured earlier. A mirror flipped, perfectly balanced. When he reached the podium, he didn't grab the mic. He simply straightened it, adjusted its height, and began speaking as if this had been his slot all along. "Good morning," he said. "I believe I'm the scheduled speaker for Nexora Technologies." Laughter broke, soft at first, then swelling, fueled by catharsis and disbelief. Cameras rolled. Investors leaned forward. Elijah tapped the remote on the table. The same presentation Daniel had stolen flashed back to life, but now it was his hands guiding it. His voice, calm, precise, magnetic, filled the hall. "This system doesn't just predict patterns," he said. "It predicts behavior. Markets rise and fall on human bias. The very bias we witnessed here today." He paused. No one moved. "The difference between arrogance and innovation," he continued, "is humility. One pretends to know everything. The other keeps learning." A reporter whispered. He turned humiliation into a lecture. From the front row, Graham shifted, face tight. "This is absurd." Elijah didn't even look at him. "No, Mr. Porter, this is education." Applause erupted, hesitant at first, then thunderous. It wasn't just for a man. It was for a truth. Voiceover enters like a steady breath. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't gloat. He simply stood in the space built to exclude him and filled it with presence. Daniel covered his face with one hand, whispering to no one, "It was supposed to be mine." Elijah looked down at him. "You were given access. I built the door." A ripple went through the audience, and that sentence, that poise, that quiet correction of power. The journalist Margaret Lane, seated near Sophia, typed fast, her voice low as she spoke to her recorder. A room built to silence him just learned what silence sounds like when it speaks back. Elijah finished the last slide. The Nexora logo faded into black, replaced by one line of text. "Innovation isn't inclusion, it's correction." He stepped back from the mic. No music, no lights, just the sound of people standing, clapping, filming, cheering. Graham tried to leave but couldn't. The cameras followed him. Accountability in 4K. Elijah looked across the hall once more. His voice, quiet but sharp enough to leave a mark. "We all say we want progress. Today you met it. Hoodie and all." Voiceover fades in, reverent. He came to test the system. Instead, he replaced it. The crowd kept clapping. The kind that doesn't end when the camera cuts. Fade to wide shot. Elijah on stage, a wall of light behind him. The old order dissolving beneath his calm. The applause finally settled into a soft murmur, the sound of people realizing they were witnessing a power shift, not a performance. Elijah stood at the center of the stage, expression neutral, voice steady. "Before we close," he said, "there's unfinished business." The LED wall behind him flickered again. revealing a live corporate dashboard. Helios Venture Group. Executive access log. Rows of names appeared, glowing in blue. Graham Porter, Daniel Rhodes, and the rest of the Helios board. Then a single command line blinked at the top. Transfer authority, execute. Elijah turned toward the front row, meeting Graham's eyes without blinking. Effective immediately, he said. Helios executive privileges are revoked. Every account, every authorization, every title, terminated. Gasps filled the room. The guards by the door straightened unconsciously, unsure if they should intervene or salute. Graham rose halfway from his seat, disbelief pulling at his voice. You can't, Elijah interrupted, tone quiet but absolute. I already did. The system on the screen confirmed it. Green lights flickering one by one, replacing each executive's title with a single word, vacant. Daniel stood up next, his tie hanging loose, face pale. Elijah, please. I made a mistake. You were pretending, Elijah said. Pretending you built something that didn't belong to you. That pretense ends here. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small black envelope. Crisp, precise. He held it out. This is your termination agreement. I even included a clause for dignity. You can leave before security walks you out. Daniel took the envelope with trembling hands. Cameras caught every second. You don't have to do this, he said quietly. You're right, Elijah replied. I don't. But justice isn't about what we have to do. It's about what we should. The crowd went still again. The energy shifted. No longer applause, but reverence. Voiceover enters low and deliberate. Some men destroy you with noise. The wise do it with paperwork. Graham tried one final defense. You think you can replace experience, reputation, legacy? Elijah cut in. I'm not replacing them. I'm rewriting what they mean. He gestured toward the hall's entrance. 2 Nexora security officers, not Helios's, stepped forward. Their presence was calm, professional, not aggressive. Escort Mr. Porter and Mr. Rhodes to their cars, Elijah said, and make sure they take nothing that doesn't belong to them, including credit. The audience didn't laugh, but they smiled. The kind of smile that happens when justice finally exhales. As the 2 men were guided out, flashes erupted from phones, capturing the quiet symmetry. The ones who had laughed earlier now exiting under escort. Elijah stayed on stage, unshaken. He turned toward the investors. If you're wondering whether Nexora remains open for collaboration, he said, the answer is yes, and for those who lead with respect. Applause rose again, not explosive, but unified, a standing ovation heavy with relief. Voiceover returns. A whisper of finality. He didn't raise his hand. He didn't raise his voice. He simply lifted the weight of injustice and set it down on the right desks. As Graham and Daniel disappeared through the doors, Elijah looked at the crowd, then the cameras, then up toward the lights. His expression softened just slightly. The system corrected itself today, he said. All I did was press enter, fade to wide shot, the Nexora logo pulsing like a heartbeat. The voiceover closes the scene. Justice doesn't need thunder. Sometimes it just needs a login. The lights dimmed, not as a cue, but as if the building itself understood the moment. Elijah stood alone on the stage, hands resting loosely at his sides. The crowd that had once whispered, doubted, laughed, now rose to their feet, silent, reverent. No one asked for another word. They just watched him breathe, as if dignity itself had taken human form. He looked out across the hall, at the rows of investors, founders, and students holding their phones like torches. His voice came low, even almost tender. When I was younger, he said, I thought success was about being invited into the room, but rooms are just walls and ceilings. What matters is who builds them, and what happens when those doors open for others. The crowd listened like the world had paused to learn. He walked toward the edge of the stage, gaze drifting to Sophia in the media pit, her camera still streaming live. He nodded to her. She nodded back. You filmed the truth, he said softly. Keep doing that. It changes things, her eyes welled. Yes, sir. He turned back to the audience. They said I didn't belong, he continued. But belonging isn't permission. It's purpose. And purpose doesn't wait to be invited. Applause rippled through the hall, gentle at first, then rolling, unstoppable. Voiceover blends in beneath his words, like a second layer of truth. He didn't come to humiliate anyone. He came to remind them that silence can be power, that calm is not surrender, and that justice, when it finally stands, doesn't raise its voice. The crowd erupted again, this time with emotion that felt bigger than applause. Some clapped, some cried, some simply watched, understanding that they had seen more than a reversal. They had seen a correction. Elijah reached for the mic one last time. To everyone watching, he said, looking into the cameras, "Don't let anyone tell you dignity has a color, or that brilliance needs validation. If they close a door on you, we build your own floor. Then buy the building." Laughter, cheers, tears, the kind that doesn't need music to feel like a symphony. Behind him, the LED wall flickered again, Nexora glowing like an emblem of restoration. Below it, a single line faded in, designed by Amira. "Justice doesn't shout. It arrives." Elijah smiled faintly at the screen, almost to himself, and whispered, "Exactly." He turned, stepped off the stage, and walked down the aisle as the audience parted. The same path he'd been forced to take earlier, now transformed into a corridor of respect. Hands reached out to shake his. Phones filmed. Eyes followed in silence. Sophia's camera stayed on him until the doors closed behind his back, light wrapping around him like armor. Voiceover closes the film. Slow, resonant, final. They told him he didn't belong. They called him arrogant, unfit, out of place. But power doesn't announce itself. It arrives, quiet, steady, undeniable. And when it does, the world remembers its name.